Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Horse with No Name podcast. We have reached the end of our semester-long podcast. In terms of recapping, we still have one to go next week, but we are recapping the 2019-20 academic year. It was a great year. Got cut short there towards the end, and we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. Before we start, though, we want to mention that we are presented by The Grill. Grill is located at 241 West Roseville Road in Lancaster. They are still open. They're open from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. So head on over to The Grill and have a nice cheesesteak and French fry. Bob, how are you today? Welcome to 2019-20.
Hey, Zach, we are at the final year, actually really the 11th year.
I know.
And November, welcome to November. It got cold out.
It's very cold out. We're actually taping this right before we have a men's soccer scrimmage, our final intra-squad scrimmage of the semester. And we are going to go outside and live stream that. So I brought hat and gloves and some long underwear, and we'll go ahead and fix ourselves up here and see if we can't go outside and freeze in the press box for a little while. At least get one of those nights in here this semester.
I know. After a fall that's been incredible weather, we have had zero sports. And the night that you decide to say, hey, let's go live stream a game outside, winter decides to show up.
It's just great. Looking forward to it. It should be fun. It's our first, I don't want to say home event, but first time live streaming with a broadcast since March 5th of 2020. And that's a good segue probably to welcome our guest, Kole Horst from the men's volleyball team. Kole, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. So yeah, March 5th, 2020, our last home event, last regular season event. Lancaster Bible taking down 5th ranked Rutgers Newark 3-1. They were previously undefeated, and a great night for the campus, a great night for LBC, the men's volleyball program itself. And I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more if I'd have known that we were talking that it was the last home event we had here since that time. So we'll get to that here in just a little bit. But Kole, we've talked the past couple of weeks about obviously the men's volleyball program, pretty good in 17, very good in 18, good again in 19 with obviously a poor ending to 2019. What were the differences in your opinion? We asked this to Derek Bigley a couple of weeks ago. What were the differences between the 2018 and 19 team in your opinion? Obviously the endings are different and the way you felt about the season probably was different, but they kind of were the same team, and 19 was actually probably a better volleyball team than the 18 team.
Yeah, truthfully, I think a big difference came into coach getting a tougher schedule for us. I think our success in the 18 season really the teams were like, hey, we're going to be a team that you want to play against. And so coach used that to his advantage. And in the 19 season, we had a lot of tougher teams, and it just, sadly, in the end, we couldn't pull it out in the final set against Wells. But I think overall, we played much better volleyball that year. It just, again, the result sadly did not show it.
Yeah, that seemed to be kind of what Derek was talking about too. Just sort of the 2018 team had that push from 2017 where you lost in the semifinals of the Niacc tournament to kind of say, hey, we don't want that to happen again. And then the 19 team, again, like you said, a good, probably maybe even a better team. Did you feel like you were missing that incentive maybe since you had won the Niacc final and had gone to the Elite Eight of the NCAA tournament, excuse me?
I don't know if we were lacking the incentive. I think it was kind of expected of us. So I think especially towards the end of the game, we kind of were like, oh, we've achieved it again. But I mean, we knew Wells was going to be tough. Earlier in the season, we went 3-2 again. We reverse swept them at their home court. So we knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I do think that there was something everyone was expecting at it. So we might've felt the pressure a little bit more than we kind of were expecting to.
And so moving ahead to the 2020 season, as we get into this 19-20 academic year, played pretty well early on, a couple of losses to Stevenson, Messiah, tough games with Arcadia as well, and then just sort of take off. Was there a refocus in practice? Was it something that Coach Brubaker said, something that maybe a leader like yourself, senior leader, would have said in a practice or before a match to kind of refocus, or just sort of you played good teams?
I think for the first couple losses, it was hey, Stevenson's a good team. We lost to them. We played okay. It was a long weekend. I think the loss to Messiah, though, was really what kicked us into gear. because you never want to lose the Bible Bash, so that's already number one. But then we were just like, we shouldn't lose that game. And in the locker room after the game, it was definitely like everyone just kind of sat there stunned and was like, we just lost to Messiah. They're a good team, but we shouldn't have lost. And then the attitudes that we carried on forward was, instead of being like, oh, we lost to them, season over, was like, we are never going to let this happen again. Like, that sucked. And the next practice, everyone came out and were like, this is not happening again. No one's touching us in the coming games.
Sure. And so as we go on through that stretch then into February and into late February, early March, we have wins over Juniata, Stevens, and Rutgers Newark. I know the Stevens match meant a lot to players who had been with the program for a long time. Not because we don't like Stevens, it's because you guys have so much respect for Stevens. We played them pretty tough the year before, lost 3-1 here on our home floor when they were ranked second in the country. They're ranked third last year. You go to their place and we sweep them 3-0. What was it like to finally slay that dragon?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm one of those guys who's been here. I remember the first time we played them, we went to their place and we just got destroyed by them. Went to their place. We were out of our league, it felt like. Then we come home, we win that one set against them. And I just remember being like, oh my gosh, we just took a set off the number 2 team in the nation. So excited. And then when we went there, I mean, it was just, when we were in the second and third set and we finally kind of took a step back and throwing the one time out, and we're like, we are beating Stevens 2-0 and up by 7 points right now. It was just insanity. After the game, we had Zeke's brother had Prove 'em Wrong tour shirts. And so we were just all getting so hype in the locker room wearing those and stuff. So it was great.
That's beautiful. Good job on the segue there, Cole. We want to welcome Zeke Hallman to the podcast as well. Now, Zeke, thanks for joining us. How are you tonight?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. We're just talking, kind of running through a couple of the bigger matches from last season. One of those matches, it turns out to be the final match of the season with Rutgers Newark. They come to our place undefeated, ranked 5th in the country. Sort of a surprise, but then you watch them play or even warm up, frankly, and you come to realize what's going on or what's been going on all season with them. Take us through that match a little bit, Zeke, if you could, just sort of what it looked like. Again, I don't know how much you guys actually watch these teams warm up. I don't know how much film sessions you're doing before the match, things like that. I know it's a little different than basketball where you're studying, but at the same time, you do want to kind of have a feel. That first set, they take it, and then we kind of have to start coming back, and we end up winning 3-1. What were some things you guys were talking about maybe before the match or even throughout the early parts of the match?
Well, before the match, I mean, we knew they were a good team. We watched film on our own what we could against other teams that they played, and they beat some good teams. I mean, they had a quick offense. That was the one thing that we really hit on, that their setter had good hands. They had a really fast offense, and their one outside was a lefty, which is different for us. So blocking wise, we were keen in on 2 lefties because the right side was a lefty as well. They were a young team. We knew that. So we were hoping that if we could kind of absorb the shock of adrenaline from the start of the match, hopefully we could use our more veteran Hood to stick around and hopefully finish a longer set. So yeah, that was big. The crowd was huge that night. That's one of the coolest things I remember from that game. The crowd was rocking. I mean, Nate and Cole were smashing that night. I just watched film a few weeks ago of that game, and man, they were cranking. The crowd was awesome. It really helped us out. But that was by far my favorite match of the year. I mean, to end as hot as we did, coming off that stretch of Stevens, Juniata, and then Newark, to finish it off undefeated at home in front of our home crowd, I mean, that was awesome.
I couldn't agree more. And Bob and I are going to talk about it later in the podcast. But if you were going to write, again, the ending of the season, not fun having to cancel a season that, potentially you're going places. But if you're going to pick a match or pick a scenario of how to end something, I mean, I remember my wife and boys were there because it was even before the match. I was like, hey, I think this is probably one you should come to. And, it's just amazing. You look at the crowd, it's packed. And then 8 days later, you're not allowed to be around anyone. It was just sort of, it's funny to look back on that now and think, all right, well, I was just in the gym with 400 people. It was really loud and we're all yelling, but okay, great. Nobody around. That's fine. Looking back on it now, obviously we have the hindsight to see that it's, we haven't played, you guys haven't played a match. We haven't had a home event. No one's had any events. Cole, what does it mean to have that kind of be the last match for that team?
It's kind of beautiful just because it just capped just amazing run. Like we start again talking about that loss to Messiah and stuff. We kind of were going downhill. We turned it around and we did something that no one thought we could, and that's beat 3 straight ranked teams and 2 of them away. And it just, I don't know. In the moment it sucked, but now I look back and I'm like, man, what an incredible end. Like I couldn't write it any better.
So we had Derek Bigley, like I said, on a couple of weeks ago, and we ran through his 4 years from 1 win as a freshman to NCAA tournament victory as a senior and things like that. He said the ceiling for this program is an NCAA Division III national championship, and that he thinks the team is close. So we'll start off with the what could have been question, and then I'll move you to the hopeful thing. Zeke, do you think last year's team was a team that could win the national championship?
I think there was enough talent there. I think that you can make that argument for sure. I think that there was enough veteran leadership from guys like Ben Herb and Cole and Nate and them, that Ruben, I mean, they've seen it. They've played enough good volleyball to be able to lead us into it. I think beating Stevens was a big contribution to making that argument. That, I mean, they're a powerhouse in Division III men's volleyball. I think we had the talent, yes. I mean, how the tournament would have shaken up, who we would have seen. I think it's fun to dream about the what ifs, but I think talent-wise, I think it's hard to deny that we couldn't at least made a push for it.
Cole, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, he took it right out of my mouth. I mean, we proved it in the season that we had the shot. So who knows what happened in the tournament, but I would have been willing to put some money on it.
And so I'm not going to, we'll have to cut that out now.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that with NCAA.
Compliance coordinator Becky Elliott would like to have a chat with you the next time you're but looking ahead then, obviously we lost some guys. Let's assume we play a couple matches here in 2021. I have no idea. I'm not breaking any news, and if anyone tells you we are or we aren't, they don't know either, so don't believe them. But whenever the team does play next, and you know how well Jade recruits, you know how well the foundation is built here, is the ceiling for this program a national championship?
I mean, I'd say absolutely. I mean, again, Jade is just incredible at recruiting. I don't know what it is about him. He's a great coach, and he gets guys to come out to our practices, and then they get to experience our team culture, and they want to come and they want to join, and we get people from all over. I mean, I think last week we had Arizona came up to play, and we had someone from Virginia drive up for the day, and like Texas and stuff. But I think he brings in guys who can lead well and guys with hunger, and that's what we're seeing in practices now. It's just guys with a hunger to play, no matter what year they are. They want to be on that court, and it just creates an atmosphere that you need to get to that level.
And sort of along those same lines, Zeke, not a lot of men's volleyball playing in your high school career. You were actually a quarterback on the football team, if I recall correctly. Obviously, we don't have football, thankfully, but says the sports information director. But what drew you to the program? And obviously, people who know Coach Brubaker, Derek mentioned it a couple weeks ago. What is it about him and this program and the guys that made you say, I have to learn how to do that?
Actually, Sky Welkers went to my church back home, and he said he joined, and he said he did it. And I was like, well, Sky did it. Sky was successful. Like, I'd like to see what I can do with it. I needed to play a sport. And like you said, I played football in high school. So I didn't want to really play basketball again. I wasn't a big fan, but I knew I could kind of jump. So I was like, I texted Jade. I sent him my high school football highlights, and I was like, hey, can I walk on? How do you do this? And so he let me. I can't sing enough praises about the whole coaching staff. Jade was huge. Coach Julie was huge as the middles coach. And then Coach K, Coach Brian Kemmer, defensive coach. I mean, they were all so encouraging. I mean, I can't imagine how green I was walking into that gym, not knowing even what it meant to pepper. So they were very patient with me. And yeah, they were awesome. I can't sing their praises enough of how great they are at developing and then adding on to skill that you have, watching them get the more advanced stuff with the upperclassmen as I was a freshman. They're awesome. And I think they're the reason that the ceiling is so high for the program.
Absolutely. And Cole, You did play volleyball in high school, a pretty good high school volleyball player in this area as well, but you didn't play the position that you play currently. You were a setter for the most part. And, I think when you got here, we had a pretty good setter in Caleb Ansel, and then we kept getting better setters, and now Ruben's a setter, and you have no chance of setting. So, but you gladly move positions, and again, kind of build into this whatever is best for the team mentality. And I think coaches like to preach, hey, do what's best for the team, and players say that all the things like that. Doesn't always happen, but it seems to be happening in this program time and time again.
Yeah, I think, again, testament to coach. He just somehow sees your position even when you've never played it. Like, I remember watching the film of Zeke's football highlights with coach and him being like, yeah, he's got good footwork and stuff. I think he could run a middle if he could learn it. And I was like, how can you tell from a football highlight film what this dude could play? But like, he knows volleyball so well that he can just see in someone, just be like, you do this really well and you'll excel at this position. Even if you've never played it before, give me a year and you'll do great. And that's what he does time and time again.
Bob?
Guys, a little over a week after that big Rutgers Newark match, and the huge win that was, because they were ranked number 5 at the time, and it was awesome. 8 days later, you were supposed to play Wells. What did you want? How badly did you guys want that game, and what would it mean to you to have the opportunity to play them still?
After the Niacc final loss the year before, the second that schedule came out, I'm not going to lie to you, I circled both Wells games. I had it hanging up in my room back home in my weight room. Like, I was just sitting there waiting for that. Like, I knew that, we had our ranked opponents, the ranked gauntlet we had to get through. But at the end of it was like my confetti cherry on top that we got to see Wells again. So not getting to see them. I remember that Friday that I was at home, I was depressed. I was like, man, this is Wells Day. Like, this is a sad day. I'm not going to get the chance at him again.
Yeah, going with Zeke, that was just kind of what the team did. Like, coach had to tell us all the time, like, we're playing this team today. Stop looking ahead. Because that's where our goal was. We just got to go beat Wells again just to show them who's boss. That was our whole thought process the whole season. We'd be like, hey, number 3 Stevens, we're looking at Wells right now. And coach would be like, hey, get back into this game right now. Like,
I think it's great because we've talked about that, Bob, in the past. I know we talked a lot about it last season with the men's soccer team. They had Penn State Abington circled for the entire summer and things. And we were like, oh, there's 6 non-conference games before that, like all this stuff. But you couldn't talk them out of it. It was the same thing, circled on schedules. We're doing this little thing now because I think it'll work on September 13th when we play Abington and things like that. And that can be good and that can be bad. Like Coach was saying, it can be bad, but then as you guys say, it can be good. I think it's a very healthy rivalry. I don't think there's a ton of ill will there. I'm sure there's some things that they do that aren't particularly great that you guys can make things up anyway that you don't like. But it's the same as we talked in the middle part of this podcast series with the men's basketball team playing Morrisville State. How you have a rivalry with someone who's 400 miles away is beyond me. And it's the same thing for Wells. You wouldn't think Aurora and Lancaster have a lot in common, but there's 2 good men's volleyball programs. And it's just been this great rivalry for the past couple of years. And I think they like it. And I'm sure they were equally as upset that they didn't get a chance to come down here. I remember when we canceled everything, we were trying to figure out, okay, if we don't tell anybody, could Wells just come down and we'll play? We don't have to count it or anything. Could we have it? And, obviously put the kibosh on that. But I just think it's interesting that you guys have such a good respect for an opponent, but at the same time, really, really wanted to play that opponent. So sorry about stepping your question.
Oh, it's all good. Hey, so you guys have been doing some fall ball right now and getting together and practicing. And like Zach said, this is not breaking news at all because we have no idea what the future holds here for second semester. But what are some things that have been working for you? Who's stepping up? Who are some new players to be watching out for? What do you see for this current team?
I think a big position that we lost last year was Kurt Masilis. Losing him at libero just hurts. So a big competition that's been going on and that's been super healthy and has been seeing so much growth between the 2 guys has been Tanner Schertzer and Conrad Martin going for that position. It's just been so much fun playing with them because even from the beginning of fall ball to now, but even more so from last year, their growth and hunger to play this position, their growth has been exponential. And it's just so much fun to get to play with guys who want to play that badly. And so, I mean, we have guys competing there. We've got 4 new freshmen who've come in who are showing some heart to play and who have some pretty good athleticism. Remind me of someone else who came in as a freshman as a really good athlete, Zeke. But it's fun because we're young again. And in past years we've been old, but now we're young. So it's kind of fun to play with a team that's like has the young blood in it and has that fire to play.
Any thoughts, Zeke?
I think what Cole said about being young is very true. It's exciting. We're young. There's some unorthodox things happening just from kids playing with their athleticism. Practices are exciting. The kids are looking up to the upperclassmen and watching what we do and then going and doing it harder, faster, and challenging us to be better than we are right now. So I think a big person that's been standing out is Elijah. He's stepping up big this year. He's right now moving out to outside, playing around out there. We'll see where he ends up in the regular season, but he's playing out there and bouncing balls, looking like his older brother out there. So I've been encouraged and challenged by Ed. So that's been fun to play with.
He's one of those quiet guys on the team that there's often times that I've heard him say something and I'm like, wow, that's pretty profound for the age that he is and everything that goes along with him.
Yeah, he's a fun dude.
Yeah, for sure. You guys, one of the things men's volleyball has really come around, and like it is a team. You find one volleyball player, you find 20 volleyball players usually. In this age of COVID, how's that been working out for you guys? How are you building team with social distancing and like obviously you get together and you play fall ball, but outside of it, how are you building team?
I know the guys on campus. I mean, I know Zeke and I both are off campus, so we're not on the culture as much, but the leaders on campus have been putting in work with the underclassmen, getting them integrated, and as we like to refer to it, breaking them in to the men's volleyball team because we're an odd group of guys, but really getting them involved. And I mean, I could see the first day I came into practice that they had already become so much of a team and the underclassmen were comfortable. And then we spend 30 minutes before practice in the locker room just messing around and just doing dumb stuff, growing closer to each other. And then even after practice, you can't get people out of the locker room because we just want to hang out. And it's just kind of cool to see that because even in COVID, we're finding ways to grow closer and learn about each other and pray for each other and do all these things that you wouldn't have thought was really possible.
Yeah. This has truly been a fun time for men's volleyball. You go back 5-6 years ago and Jade comes in and he has a 1-win season and to see that you guys are knocking on national tournament doors consistently, it's been a lot of fun.
So we've been ending some of these interviews with some updates on everyone. You guys are both still current students, so it's pretty simple at this point. But Cole, I know specifically you're doing some student teaching this semester as the husband of a teacher. How's that going for you?
It's definitely been interesting. Definitely have had to rely on the strength of God a lot because, stuff changes in an instant and you just got to roll with the punches. But I mean, I'm truly blessed to have a great placement and I know this is what I want to do. I love teaching so much and I love middle schoolers. No matter how crazy you think I am, they are so much fun. And so I'm finishing up now, going into grad classes next semester to play and teaching from there.
That's great. I do think you're crazy, but that's all right. So good for you. Someone's got to teach middle school, so it might as well be someone who's passionate about it. That's excellent. Zeke, what about you? How's your semester going?
Good. I'm wrapping up what's going to be my second to last academic classes semester-wise. I have 12 credits next semester, and then I will, like Cole, student teach next fall and be out. But right now I'm just at home. I'm working at home, and I'm excited about doors God's opening up to maybe be going and teaching overseas possibly in the future, or just praying on where he wants to use me, how he wants to use me as a teacher. And I can't wait to see how he does.
That's great. Well, we really appreciate you guys coming on. boy, I hope we get to watch some volleyball this year. I don't know what that'll look like. I don't know when that'll look like, but really hoping that we get to watch some volleyball and be a part of more excitement from the program and just to watch you guys play, like Bob kind of mentioned. It's obviously we like the winning and it's exciting and it's fast paced, but just you can tell just that you guys that you love each other and you love volleyball, and it works both ways with the coaches too, and it's just a really fun program to be around, and you guys are great role models for people like my boys, but also for your peers as well. So we're really appreciative of you guys leading the way and being a part of LBC. So we really appreciate you guys coming on, and we're looking forward to the season, hopefully.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon. Great. So that was Kole Horst and Zeke Hallman of the men's volleyball team. A lot of fun talking to them. And boy, Bob, I hope we get to watch some volleyball this year.
Time will tell, I guess. I don't know. I'm glad that, it seems crazy to me to see all the athletic teams that have consistently been practicing this fall, but it is their passion. It's what they love. They're taking their skills that they love for God and continuing just to build a team. And hopefully in the spring semester, we might get to see some games on Lancaster's campus, and we'll see.
Absolutely. So, well, we'll get into our last recap of the year. It's a little bit of a shorter one. There's not much to talk about in the spring. We'll still talk about them as much as we can, but it gets a little short on details once we get past that first week of March. But in the fall, when things were normal, the men's soccer team went 14-5-3. They were 7-2-2 in the Niacc. Beat SUNY Cobleskill 2-0 in the Niacc quarterfinals before losing on penalty kicks to eventual Niacc champion Penza Harrisburg in the Niacc semifinals. They then lost to Roberts Wesleyan 2-1 in the Midwest region playoffs. I should mention Roberts Wesleyan is an NCAA Division II team, so a 2-1 loss to that team is pretty impressive, actually. The team was good last year. We had a lot of podcasts last fall with players and coaches, and same kind of thing as men's volleyball. It was kind of just a team you wanted to be around. They were so focused and so prepared and so with the job at hand. That was just sort of fun to be around them. They started the year 4-1 in those four wins. One was the win over Abington, 2-1. We're going to talk about that in our best game category. Had a nice stretch in the middle of the season, 5-0-1, and then won their last four regular season games. Some weird tiebreakers in the Niacc standings that we ended up having to go to SUNY Cobleskill. Let's just say the guys did not appreciate that. I know it's hard to be upset with how tiebreakers work, but we had tied them earlier in the year, and I still to this day cannot tell you how those tiebreakers work, that we ended up being the 5th seed. If you'd asked me the day the regular season ended, I thought we were going to get a bye into the semifinals, and we ended up having to go to SUNY Cobleskill. And how can we say this nicely? It was a nice win over SUNY Cobleskill. The regular season game here was not particularly fun. I think that they had 10 cards. It was just not a great day. The sportsmanship ran a little low that day here in Lancaster as well. So we scored 2 goals in the first 6 minutes up there, and we'll talk about it when we get to the best memory part. I don't know that I've shouted too often in my office in the afternoons, but watching that game, I had a healthy voice that day. We scored those 2 goals. So anyway, the game against Harrisburg in the Niacc semifinals was really good. Unfortunately, came down to PKs and just couldn't do it there. But it was a really good team, good season. Just quickly, Chad Tolson, 7 goals. Kedrick Yoder had 4 goals and 12 assists. The 12 assists are the tie for the 3rd most ever in a single season in our program's history. I think the most since Lawrence Lardy had 11, I think in the 2009 or 10 season. Ramo Mugisha had 8 goals. Caleb Nelson, 6 goals. Rusty Ristine, 4. And then Clark Schreiner and Joel Hughes had 3 goals as well. Jake Detterline, 1.17 goals against average and 12 wins. Again, a really, really good team last year.
It is a really good team that is still completely not satisfied with where they are with the program yet. They know that they can get it to the next level. And these guys, even during a pandemic, have been working really hard in the off season. During the summer, they were getting out as much as they can when they could. This fall, they've been getting together. You talked about like later tonight, we're taping this on a Tuesday night, and they're going to be out in the cold having a blast as their final season. That fall season, boy, they wanted that win against Abington. They got it, but losing to Harrisburg in penalty kicks, boy, that still left a bitter taste in their mouth, and they want more. So I think you're going to see a lot more coming from these guys because there's a lot to still be had.
We talked about the senior leadership or the upperclassmen leadership on the men's volleyball team there with Kole and Zeke. That leadership exists as well on the men's soccer team. Nate Muckle, Chad Tolson, Rusty Ristine. Those guys are leaders on and off the field. They get guys to come out to 6 a.m. practice. They get guys to come out to 10 p.m. practice. And everyone's focused. It's not, hey, you want to come outside? It's, hey, we have work to do today. And everyone buys in. I think you can probably put the men's soccer, men's volleyball teams, and men's basketball, and some others as well. I don't want to single anyone out, I guess, necessarily. But the determination, the understanding of where they are and the seriousness they have at all times, men's volleyball, men's soccer are right up there with our top teams for sure.
Yep.
Women's soccer last year, 9-10 overall, 5-6 in the Niacc. They lost to Penn State Harrisburg 3-2 in the Niacc quarterfinals, a pretty well played game by the Chargers. They beat Casanova 2-1 in the season finale to clinch a Niacc playoff spot. They began the year 4-2, had some big wins over Karen in overtime and then Penn State Abington. But boy, the injury bug bit and bit and bit. It was like a mosquito in July. It was crazy just how many players either had season-ending injuries or got nicked up a little bit and had to miss a game here or there. And there's just a couple games where it wasn't going to work regardless because of all the injuries that they had. Megan Rogers had 6 goals and 16 points. Kara Huber had 6 goals and 2 assists in 8 games before she had an injury. Brianna Hoover scored 5 goals. 13 different players had at least 1 goal. So it's balanced scoring. I think if I was going to lodge a complaint, I think we need some more high-powered scorers. I think maybe you would have seen some of that if the injury bug hadn't bitten. But at the same time, I know that's something they've been working on, getting some better defensive-minded players, getting a little more depth, things like that. So I think the future is pretty bright there. Just a matter of now of kind of, again, as much as you can, fend off those injuries and put some wins up there in the standings.
You know, as tight as the men's soccer team is, the women's team is pretty tight too. I mean, and obviously for conference games, they generally are traveling together because they're usually playing back-to-back games and everything. And so I think there's a drive to want to be like one another, like, or I don't know. I'm sure the guys would never say they want to be like the girls, but the women's team wants to have the recognition, and they're going to get there as well. I have no doubt about that. Probably one of the coolest games though was the game that they played for
Avery's dad.
Yeah, Avery's dad. To see the LBC community come together, the girls did a bake sale. They did T-shirts. They raised money for Avery's dad and their medical expenses. Avery's father's dealing with cancer and everything, and people showed up. And it was one of the really coolest events that I've seen take place on our campus.
That was a lot of fun. You know, we talk about, again, leadership and people serving and trying to be what we're all about more so than not. And that was just another great example of LBC doing LBC stuff. And it was great. That was a really nice day for everybody.
Yeah, having her dad there, coming out to the center of the field for the coin toss, all that stuff. It was just a real special day. And on top of it, Avery gets injured in the very first game of the season. And what a heartbreak that was. But she stayed such a significant part of that team and continues to be a part of the team today. So
absolutely. Women's volleyball last year, 16-16 overall, 7-4 in the Niacc. Lost to Penn State Berks 3-2 in the Niacc quarterfinals. That was our first ever home Niacc playoff match, which is kind of incredible to believe that after a decade. That was our first one we ever hosted, but we did. The beginning of the years 2-6 overall, and then won 7 of 9, including 3 straight 3-2 victories. Can't say that is going to be done anytime soon. It was great. We'll get to that in best game. 5-game winning streak in October, featuring another 3-2 victory over Cuca. Aaliyah Hayworth had 225 kills, 45 blocks, 114 digs. Cassidy King was really good in her first year, 198 kills, 234 digs. Ashton Baslog put a nice exclamation point on her career with 168 kills, 54 aces, and 173 digs. Kate Smoker had a nice freshman year, 126 kills and 57 aces, 280 digs as well. And then Susanna Whiting, 425 digs, and Becca Roberts had 56 blocks as well. Nice, well-rounded team. I think there were high expectations for the team. Whether or not they were attainable after going 21-9 the year before and making the Niacc final, maybe. But there were some new faces on the team last year, and I think maybe it took a little longer to get acclimated with one another than they thought it was going to take.
And on top of it, when you're playing 5-set matches, that is just exhausting. I remember talking to Micah so many times. He's like, we just can't do this again. And like, it's exciting that when you win them, but it just takes a lot out of the team and the individuals and everything. So
I think they ran out of steam at the end of the season. Honestly, if I'm not here to tell you that if they would have played one less 5-set match, they would have beat Berks. That's true. But I mean, I think honestly, I looked it up. I think they played 119 sets last season in 32 matches. I mean, these are not, we joked a couple weeks ago about the 55-minute men's volleyball match that year. These were more like hour 55 plus.
Yeah.
And so, after you play so many, you just run out of steam eventually. I mean, now it's just a long season.
I don't think this is something that you and I have probably ever really talked about. They don't have the awards to show it, but this has been the most consistent team out of any team at LBC to consistently make playoffs. That they've not missed the Niacc playoffs since we've joined the conference, correct?
Right. Yep.
They're always right there. And again, I know we're going to see women's volleyball get somewhere.
Absolutely. Julie's already taken that program, and with the recruiting and the way they practice, and again, team stuff, it's coming for women's volleyball. That's for sure.
Yep.
Field hockey went 3-15 last year, 1-5 in the CSAC, where the field hockey team plays. No postseason, but they did earn their first win since we brought the program back to varsity status on September 6th against Sweetbriar, a 2-0 victory. First win since 1984, if you're scoring at home. Back-to-back wins in early October against Bryn Athyn and Wells. They did have 5 losses by 2 goals or less. So, again, we talked last week about a couple of teams and, replaying the season. There's a scenario here where maybe the field hockey team is, 6-12 and the record looks a little bit different. But regardless, it's a good foundational year. Macy Balmer had 6 goals and 5 assists. She was the Niacc Rookie of the Year. Nina Statuti had 5 goals. Brooke Sareka, 4 goals. Blessing Bowman had 2 goals and 3 assists. Chloe Campbell, 110 saves. She was Niacc Goalie of the Week, Defensive Player of the Week, and All Conference as well. Coach Becky Elliott, Niacc Coach of the Year, CSAC Coach of the Year. Regardless or despite the record, it was clear to teams we played in 2019 that we had played in 2018. This was a way different team.
If you talk to Becky, before she became a full-time head coach of field hockey, she was a math teacher. So she loves to dive into numbers and look at them. The percentages of improvement from the previous year to the last season, it was leaps and bounds. It wasn't even close. Even though the record says 3-15, the percentages of improvement are just amazing. And who knows, maybe this fall off only helps them to continue to recruit and get better players in and build the team on the foundation that she has been laying down here. So it's pretty exciting.
I can tell you and our listeners or viewers that is happening, and there are recruits, and it's been a good fall. So we're definitely looking forward to having field hockey back next year. And you mentioned that. I mean, we didn't want to mention it and put a star next to it last week, but they scored 2 goals in the first season they had field hockey. So when we're beating teams 2-0 and 5-1, there's an exponential improvement in some of these categories. So absolutely. Men's cross country, 6th out of 9 teams, the Niacc championships. Ebenezer Abebe was 2nd. Thatcher Crow was 5th. They got 1st and 2nd at the Charger Invitational in September. I think the season feels like a disappointment, but that's only because of how good the 2018 team was. I think if you'd have told me that we were going to have the 2nd and 5th place finishers of the Niacc championships, I'd have been pretty happy. But I think because it was so good the year before, maybe expectations were a little high. Maybe some runners may have just had a bad cross country is difficult because you can have all these races during the season, but the only one we're going to talk about is the Niacc championships because it's not like there's conference games or anything like that. And so if you have a bad day or the weather is bad or you tweak something that week that you don't really tell anybody about, there's really nothing to do. So a tough break there. But again, may have felt disappointing, but it really wasn't. And we had a lot of good other runners than Abebe and Krob as well, with the Marshall boys and Chase Reed and guys like that. So it was a pretty good season.
Yep. It was good, and it feels like a letdown, but I mean, 2nd place out of 100 some runners is, I'm sure not doing that.
Nor will we ask you to, Bob.
I mean, Zach, I know that you've been prepping for it and you're going to set that standard, but
right.
Yeah, it is what it is. There's still a great foundation that has been laid down for cross country, and I'm hoping to see that continue to build too.
For sure. On the women's side, they were actually 3rd out of 9 teams. It's the best ever finish for the program. So changing gears here. Judith Breeze was 7th at the Niacc championships. Amanda Hay 11th, and Olivia Garr was 14th. So a really great day of racing for the women's cross country team that day. And they had a really good season overall as well. There's lots to build on there on the women's cross country side as well. And I know we don't necessarily have a full-time head coach right now there. Melissa Bachman, our track and field head coach, has sort of taken that over just for this fall. But they're out all the time, and they're still out all the time. They were out doing work earlier today. I mean, I think some of it's for indoor track now, but it's still a lot of the same people. And I know that it can only help to have indoor and outdoor track kind of bleed into cross country. And now, instead of running just cross country in the fall, you can have kind of like an all year season thing, and it's not against the rules. So I know that was something that Coach Gaiman had pushed for in the past, and we have it now, and hopefully we can build off of it that way.
Yep. Hey, again, best ever finish for a female team of cross country. We all were pleasantly surprised in so many good ways. Not that we were expecting them to do bad, but it was an opportunity for these ladies to just really shine, and they did that day. If I recall, the race that this year in 2018, it was up at Cobleskill, and I think it was kind of a wet day up there too. So,
I believe so.
It was just not the greatest conditions. Maybe a cross country runner loves it, but pretty cool for the ladies to pull out the win or the 3rd place finish that they did.
Yeah. So homecoming last year, 2019, the men's soccer team beat Penn State Berks 6-2. Michael Euphemia had 2 goals, 5 different goal scores for the Chargers. Women's soccer lost 4-1 to Berks. Brianna Stutzman had a goal. It was 1-1 at one point during that game as well. Penn State Berks is a tough opponent to have in women's soccer on homecoming. I'll talk to the scheduler about making sure that doesn't happen anymore. But the whatever 8-time defending Niacc champion is probably not who you want to host on homecoming. But nevertheless, don't really have much say when it's the conference schedule. So,
yep.
Moving to the winter, men's basketball, 14-14 overall, 10-6 in the Niacc. Beat Penn College 77-73 in the Niacc quarterfinals, then beat SUNY Poly 79-75 in the Niacc semifinals. That was an upset win. And then lost 76-69 to Penn State Harrisburg in the Niacc final in overtime. We'll get to that game in a second. The Chargers were, not good in the first semester. Let's not sugarcoat that. They just weren't very good the first semester. They were, I believe, 1-7 at Christmas or right after Christmas. Got a win there right after Christmas against Juniata, and then losses to Messiah and E-Town. You're thinking this is going to be a really long second semester. But from January 11th to February 15th, they went 10-2. Their only losses were to Penn State Harrisburg. In those games, we had the 88-82 victory over Gallaudet. We're going to get to that in best game as well. Big night for Jordan Shoebridge. And then after that, they kind of stunk the last 3 games in the regular season again. I don't know how else to say that. I think we scored 40 some points and a loss to Abington, and then went to Poly, and Cobblestone got killed up there, which made the Poly win in the Niacc semifinals all that more amazing. That a week prior to that, they basically did whatever they wanted to do for 40 minutes. Jordan Shoebridge, 16.8 points a game. He had 23 or more points 7 times, including 2 30-point games, one of them being the Gallaudet game where he had 36 points, the other being the Niacc final where he had 30. Again, I want to talk about that game when we get to the best game category. He was Niacc All-Conference first team. William Afokwa, 10.2 points, 9.3 rebounds, and Luke Beers, 8.3 points per game as well. It was maybe strange isn't the word, but it seemed like different guys would step up at different times throughout the season. Shoebridge was pretty consistent there, but there were some nights where it was Tyler Norris had 20 points, or other guys would have 20 points or 15 points or things like that. And like, oh, I didn't know that person could score 20 points in a basketball game. And it just seemed like a lot of that was happening throughout the year as well. And I have in my notes here, foundational year.
Yeah.
Whether or not there's guys who are going to be here, again, I hope we're playing basketball. We have a schedule here in the first semester to play some NCAA Division I teams, maybe some things in January as well. Regardless if we play this year, and again, I hope we play this year, there's some things that happened at the end of last year that are going to bleed over into years to come.
Oh, for sure. That Niacc semifinal game I was up at, and I took some players along. It felt like it was the Horst Athletic Center up there. There were that many fans there, and fun little story there too. And I think I sent you a picture of it. LBC's new president, Dr. Tommy Kiedis, had just started the job on February 1st. And like, he's just trying to get acquainted. I can't imagine taking over as a president of a college. And granted, Lancaster Bible College isn't the hugest college, but it's still such responsibility. And anyway, he comes up to that game and he brings Dr. Teg with him. And I just have this great picture of just the two of them sitting in the bleachers. Nobody was going to approach them. They were just everybody letting them have their times. And it looked like I think it's on Netflix, The Two Popes. And I'm like, yeah, here we've got the two presidents just sitting there watching a basketball game. It was great.
It was a good game to be at. And again, we'll talk about it here in just a little bit, but then the next day, it was just incredible. And, we actually played the home team, but it might as well have been an LBC logo in the middle of that floor. It was so loud. There were so many LBC people there. It was one of those days where, you're really, really proud to work here and be associated with the school. Yep. They did it the right way. There was no bad cheering or things like that we have to deal with occasionally sometimes from our guys and girls that were there in the student section. But it was just a fun day. And, again, I want to talk about it here in a little bit. So women's basketball, 12-14 overall, 10-6 in the Niacc. They lost to Morrisville State 61-57 in the Niacc semifinals. They won the Niacc South Division for the 7th time in 8 years. We started 0-6 and 1-7, but had 9 straight wins from January 22nd to February 18th. Caitlin Hickey was the Niacc Player of the Year, 16.5 points, 5.1 rebounds. I'll never forget about that podcast we did with her last year, where she explained to us that she looked the team in the eye after a loss, and she said, "This is my fault. I'm sorry that I did not work as hard as I need to be working." And from there on out, they were incredible and played really, really well. And I was just so impressed by her that day and throughout the season following that podcast, just to have her set an example for not only her team, but everyone else to look up to here that's associated with the athletic department.
There is something about taking ownership of your role and what you play, and being the senior on the team, being the captain, and saying, look, I take responsibility. And she did. There was just so much depth. That was such a great interview that day, and encourage anybody to go back and look that one up and listen to it and stuff, because that was just one of those incredible conversations to have.
That was definitely one of our better ones. Go ahead.
That final game, or no, the semi game, that was such a heartbreaking, frustrating. I don't know how else to describe that game. That it is just one of those games that we were here in Pennsylvania because the men were playing just right up the road, and man, you're just like, come on, no, this can't be happening,
Yep.
and it did happen, and it was that was a heartbreaking game to watch and see happen. So
Yes. Before we move on, Lucy Tilden had 13.2 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists per game, and 35 blocks. She was really good all season long last year. Alicia Iway's 8.5 was very consistent, and
yeah,
I think she's shown glimpses of that as a freshman and a sophomore. And last year as a junior, it was 26 games long. It was great. Alicia Iway's 8.5 points, 2.4 assists. Michaela Vi, 5.3 points, and Jordan Beers, 4.6 points and 6.5 rebounds per contest. So foundations there. New head coach Joy Tharrington, working with them, hopefully getting some games here first semester and into early next semester. We're hopeful there. There's good players on the team, and Joy's going to do a good job recruiting, and excited for where they can go as well.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see. People just need to be praying that we can get beyond the pandemic and let these student athletes get back to playing and developing their skills. Granted, pandemic versus athletics, that's not my point at all. It's just more the opportunity to be able to play sports and get involved. And it's such a great part of the college athlete or the student athlete experience.
And then moving on to men's volleyball. Again, we kind of just talked with Zeke and Kole, but 17-3 overall. They were 4-0 in conference play when everything shut down. They were ranked 8th in the country. 7 straight wins to end the year, including, again, like we talked about with Stevens and Rutgers Newark. They were 18-2 in the first set of matches. Kole Horst, 191 kills, 21 blocks. Benjamin Erb, 159 kills. Kyron Flahive, 111 kills. Nate Miller, 126 kills. Zeke, 106 kills, 59 blocks. And then Ruben Kemmer, who was co-Niacc Player of the Year, 699 assists and 112 digs. It's one of those things that I guess we're just going to have to look back on and wonder what could have been. Again,
what if?
I don't want to be depressed about it, because it's not depressing, and they were good, and I want to keep it there. And like I said, I can't think of a better way to end if we were going to end on a pandemic with that match being at home. But just to even see what they could have done. And again, they would have had to have beaten Wells in the Niacc final, and they would have been the third time playing them. So who knows what could have happened. And Wells was really good last year too. I don't want to make it sound like we were going to walk all over them. But
well, Wells was ranked even before we were.
Wells was ranked before us. They were 10th in the country. I mean, there's even a scenario if we split the regular season matches with them and the final goes 5, are both teams getting into the tournament? I have no idea. But it's not like we were some upstart team and only one team was going to get in like in other seasons. There's a scenario, I suppose, where both teams could have gotten into the tournament if they were ranked high enough. But man, it was just a great match. I encourage anyone. I think we have it somewhere. I'll have to find it. If we don't have it somewhere that you can watch it, I will find a way to upload last year's men's volleyball match against Rutgers Newark. The place was alive. It had a feel of a Niacc final. It was just a lot of fun, loud. And again, I brought my boys and my wife because I just kind of knew something was going to happen that night. And it was just special. It was special volleyball.
Yeah. It was packed. It was a Thursday night.
It was.
And it was a Thursday night right before spring break.
Yep.
And you just didn't know what was going to take place there. And they came in highly ranked. They were 5th in the nation at that time. Brand new coach. I think that's probably one of my favorite moments of the night. He was a first-year coach who had really good players on his team. There's no doubt about it. But Jade, after we lost that first set, I don't know what clicked with our guys, but they were not going to lose that match. And I think in the 3rd or 4th set, the opposing coach just sat down and was like, I don't know what to do. I just don't know what to do now. So,
and we've been fortunate enough to have some of those games where we've seen that before in some of our opposing coaches, and it's fun, but at the same time, there was an appreciation there. Like, I can call as many timeouts as I'm allowed to call, and we can draw up stuff, but it's just not it's just not one of those nights. And we've had that happen to us too, where people are making shots in basketball,
yeah.
or hits are getting through in baseball, or goals in soccer, whatever it may be. It's just sometimes it's not happening that day, and you sit down quietly and you tip your cap, and we get on the bus or whatever it may be. So we've had that happen too, but it was a really, really fun night, and something I'm happy that we got to see.
Yep. You were reading stats there of some of our players. That's only a part of a season. I guess it's maybe just a little bit more than half of the season that took place. Those numbers are just incredible. I just can't imagine what those numbers would have ended like had they finished the season fully.
I don't know either. And Nate joined the team late after the first couple of weeks of the season, and he was getting hot. Kyron was really, really good all season long. Herb was great. Kole out of nowhere. Then Hallman in the middle, and Ruben was just everywhere. And he sees things that no one else can see. It's amazing.
And like, probably if I had to pick somebody that was a difference maker on the team, it was Ruben. Nate had been carrying the team. Not that he didn't have really good other players. I mean, that team, the 2 years before and the year after, they were loaded, but it seemed like it was very Nate heavy and stuff. This year, Ruben comes in. Nate didn't start the season, joins the team, and all of a sudden, Nate is very much a contributor, but it is a complete team now because Ruben is not just looking at Nate. He's looking at Kole. He's looking at Ben. He's looking at Kyron. Like, he is distributing that ball completely the whole way around. And I do think that was one of the biggest changes of that made this team even more special and started doing some of the things. When they beat Juniata, I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? And then they go down to Stevens, and we were up at I was up at the basketball game that night, and we were paying attention to it. I'm like, oh my gosh, we want a set. We want to do. What is going on here?
Texted me and you're like, did you see the volleyball score? I was like, no, I'm watching the basketball. And you're like, you should go look at it. it was
and all of a sudden this team was clicking after some bad losses. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. I mean, there were some losses that I know they wish they could have back, but sometimes those losses are the motivators to get you to the next level.
Yep. Yeah. So real quick, to wrap up the winter, men's and women's indoor track and field. First time we ever had that. Eric Zimmerman won a bunch of 60-meter dashes, 200 meters as well. Elijah Erb was fifth at NCCA Nationals in the 60-meter hurdles. Great year for them. A couple of really good women's track student athletes as well. Winter Saunders, Kylie Murray there, Olivia Gard, a couple of the other cross-country runners. It was a good year for that sport to kick off. Unfortunately, we did not have outdoor track and field, obviously, but a good start for that program as well on the indoor track and field side of things. Moving to the spring, baseball went 2-7 before they were shut down. They won their final game 9-4 over Mac Murray. That'll go down as a trivia question, Bob, because Mac Murray no longer exists.
Whoa.
So, that's their final baseball game ever. So we'll look forward to that on Jeopardy here in the coming years when they have that category. Good potential there. Look forward to that here in the coming years. Riccioni hit 412 with 7 hits. Josh Softly 367 with 11 hits. Bo Hagee hit 353. Jake Hahn had 9 hits. Dan Zimmerman 3.86 ERA, and Blake Greenlee 4.91 ERA, 1-1 record there. Looking forward to watching some baseball here, maybe hopefully this spring.
Yep.
Softball was 0-8. They only played down in spring break. Adeline Steiner hit 294 with 5 hits, and Martina McCauley and Nicole DeCook each had 5 hits as well. Women's lacrosse was 0-4 before they were shut down. I thought the team was getting better throughout those 4 games. I think there was some potential there for some good wins there in the middle of this part of the season, especially in conference play. Kendall Ream had 12 goals, Cameron Horst 7, Hope Privatera 2 goals and 4 assists. We had a great podcast with those seniors back in April, I think it was, and that was a fun night talking to them and the times they had playing women's lacrosse. Men's women's tennis didn't play much. Men's tennis was 2-1. They were 1-1 in the spring. Beat Penn State Brandywine before losing to Mount Aloysius. Women's tennis did not play in the spring, though they did beat Albright during the fall. So they were 1-0 officially. And men's golf, they did play in the fall, not in the spring. They were 7th at the Ursinus Invitational. Shot a program record 368 at the Williamsport Country Club Collegiate. I drove that day, not Chris, so I'll take that. No, I'm just kidding. And then Teddy Thompson, just a great, fantastic, unfortunately, the end of his collegiate career. But if you have to end it, became the first golfer in program history to shoot under 80. He shot a 78 at the Lebanon Valley Invitational there in the fall. I know that was something he was shooting for forever, I think.
Yeah.
And at least in a tournament, he could go shoot 75 or 72 or whatever, but couldn't do it when we actually played a tournament. Finally was able to do it that day. I know that meant a lot to him. So
Yep.
A nice job there, and stands as the program record as we speak. So
Yep.
best game categories. We moved to our categories for the last time. I just want to run through these quickly. We talked a little bit about the men's soccer game against Penn State Abington on September 13th, a 2-1 victory. It was a rematch of the 2018 Niacc final. The guys just would not shut up about this game before it happened. And one thing that gets lost in that, and Tommy brought it up to me a couple of weeks ago, I think, that was our third game of the week. We had played Monday of that week against Karen. I forget who we played Wednesday, and then we played Friday. We had to play Friday because that was the week where you have to have the weekend off for retreats here at LBC. So they played Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So they really did not practice Tuesday and Thursday. So they had put in things for Abington a week prior to that game and were able to execute it and play that well. Rusty Ristine and Chad Tolson scoring goals. That was one of the better days for sure, especially because the women won as well over Abington 3-0 that day. So a really, really good day and a good win for the guys. Earlier in September, field hockey had beaten Sweetbriar 2-0. Again, our first win since 1984. October 1st, women's volleyball, LBC beats Moravian 3-2. This is our third straight 5-set victory. 2 of those 5-set wins were on the same day. They were actually on homecoming here. The women's volleyball team was away, but they won 2 straight 5-set matches. And then this one was on October 1st. November 5th, LBC with their 2-0 win over SUNY Cobleskill. I kind of talked about it earlier in the Niacc quarterfinals. Not thrilled to be on the road. Not thrilled with the opponent. And to go up there in pretty cold weather as well, and scored twice in the first 5 minutes. I remember Muckle's goal was incredible to put them up. And I was shouting, I was yelling in my office, and Pete's kind of wondering, what's happening? What's happening? And I was like, we scored again. And all this. It was a really, really fun afternoon to watch soccer for sure. And I think there was some, the way they did the live stream, the weren't muted. And so
the live stream, the field was terrible.
I don't like the.
Muckle still claims that goal should be the goal of the year. So
here we go.
I know, and he'll get a chance to probably argue about that next week. So
something to look forward to. But I just remember that every once in a while, I don't like to toot our own horn, but every once in a while, people you yearn for our live stream every once in a while. And
yes,
a day like that where it's okay. But moving into February, women's basketball had a 66-62 winner of Penn State Harrisburg. Tied Penn State Harrisburg for first place that day in the South Division. We went on and won the South Division. Caitlin Hickey had 25 points that night. Men's basketball, February 8th, beat Guydet 88-82. Shoebridge, 36 points. That was part of our 3 men's volleyball matches, men's basketball game, women's basketball game. I believe it was 10, 12, 2, 5, and 7. So if you're going to have to work all that time, you might as well have a great couple of matches and a couple of games. And we did. The women's basketball game was really good that night as well. But Shoebridge couldn't miss. It was incredible. He kept going later that month. The Niacc final we kind of talked about for men's basketball. A really, really fun day, February 29th. I don't have it listed here, but a great game. I think you'd like to have the final minute of that game back, perhaps in regulation. But I remember Eli and I were there, and you were there. We got set together, and man, what a crowd, what a day. And again, I guess if you're going to lose, you might as well lose to a really good team. And Penn State Harrisburg was a really good team. A good day, a fun day. But man, Shoebridge, it's pretty incredible when the person shoots and you know it's going in, regardless of what the shot looks like,
Yeah.
where it's from, how it is. He got to the bucket a couple times, and you didn't understand how it went in. He drove baseline a couple times, and then he would just spot up and shoot, and it was just great. And he did that twice in the same month.
And Harrisburg, I mean, I think they knew. I think everybody was just surprised with how we handled Poly the day before.
Yeah.
So Harrisburg was not surprised that they were going to be in a battle for that game, even though they probably clearly were the better team overall, like top to bottom for the season and everything.
Yeah.
But every game is an opportunity to come out and just do it. And we had the lead several times in that game. It was such an intense game. It was exhausting till it was all over. Like, and we didn't even touch the floor and touch a ball, and I was exhausted after that game.
It really was, and it's one of those games where I think if it was at home here, you and I, because of the work we have to do, maybe wouldn't have noticed. You kind of just, you're working through it. You're you're doing the public address announcing, and I'm keeping stats and broadcasting. So you kind of just go with the game. But when you're standing there watching it, and we weren't working, we were actually just fans. It was great. But like it's nerve wracking, and you're squeezing, and you're whatever. And it was just a lot of fun, and it was fun to be a part of that. And again, our crowd was great that day, and it was fun to watch Jordan play.
Oh yeah,
and all the guys too. I don't want to take him away from the other guys, but they were so into it. And again, Harrisburg was ready for us. They had played us twice, but they beaten us by 26 both times in the regular season. Poly had just killed us. I'm sure they had a lot thicker of a notebook on the Poly team than us.
Oh yeah.
How could you not? We would,
understandably so. That's right.
It's natural. They killed us both times. It really wasn't that close. They had a huge size advantage on us at every position, basically. How can you not feel a little good about it? And then all of a sudden, like you said, it's a new day. The game starts, and what is this? And credit to them, they overcame it and hit big shots down the end of the game. And unfortunately for us, they're all underclassmen, and they're all going to come back and play whenever we can play again. And again, just a great game though.
Well, and then just following Harrisburg into the tournament, they go down to Baltimore, I think it is, and had to play without fans for their first game, and I think they won that first game.
I believe.
And then they couldn't play the second game until 9:00 because they were playing Yeshiva, and because of it being the Sabbath, their athletes weren't allowed to practice, weren't allowed to do anything, and that game was late to the next night. And anyway, but playing with no fans, that's so hard.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
We're gonna find out here hopefully in a couple of weeks. But I mean, at that time it was a foreign concept. I think now we would take anything.
Yep.
But at the time, for sure, all of a sudden you can really hear the ball bouncing, and you can really hear your coach, and you can really hear it's strange. It's definitely really strange.
Yep.
The last one here is the men's volleyball match with Rutgers Newark. We're not going to go over that again, but a really, really fun night for sure.
Yep.
Biggest advancement for LBC, adding 4 more sports, indoor and outdoor track and field, men's and women's, hosting a Niacc women's volleyball playoff match. And if we can pat ourselves on the back, this podcast took off last year. We had great guests. It has nothing to do with us hardly. Great guests, great conversations. Jack Hoover helping us out, producing at that time. It was just a lot of fun last year. So I did want to mention that this has turned into a gig for us, but last year was really the first beginnings of it for sure.
Yep. And boy, wouldn't it be nice to be back in the studio doing it again?
It would be. I think we are allowed to do it. I kind of do know how to do it, but this is more fun. And it's guests here, and we don't have to be socially distant and things like that. Right. It's important to do those things. Don't get me wrong, but it's better if you can do it this way. It's still better.
Yep.
Best memory, again, watching Cobleskill LBC in my office, going to the Niacc men's basketball final in Harrisburg, again, taking Eli, hanging out with you, and again, the volleyball match. Those come to mind for sure.
Oh, clearly those were the times. Those were when things were normal and a great time. I've had a lot of fun. Even beyond like this whole COVID thing and stuff, there's been some good memories and stuff, even since then. But boy, what would have been? Oh man, I'm pretty sure we both would have been watching some men's volleyball and some D3 tournament play. I think we both would have made an effort to be at wherever they were. So
For sure. Absolutely. And I do want to say again, whether it's probably not a best memory, but it is a good memory. Our student athletes and coaches handled getting shut down very, very well, and with grace and patience. And they didn't love it. And who could? I hope they didn't, but they handled it really, really well.
you know, men's softball women's softball and men's baseball were both on their spring break trips.
Yep.
And they both, if I understand it right, had the opportunity. I know the softball team, they stopped as a team and spent some time just kind of, wow, what does this mean that our season's postponed indefinitely now and everything, or our season's going to be completely off. And baseball, if you want to go back to your trivia thing, not only was that the final game for McMurray, but it was also senior day.
Yep.
Coach Frank did a great job of saying, I don't think we're getting any more games this season. And I want to honor the guys on my team that have given 4 years or 3, whatever. They're seniors. This is going to be their final game. And I think softball might have even done that too. I'm not 100% on that, but what a great way to honor those athletes and give them an opportunity, even though their season was so short.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Who knew we'd be sitting here talking like this back then?
That's the thing. We announced it was kind of like, hey, it's paused.
Yeah.
It quickly was not paused, and now wherever we are, everyone has handled it very, very well, despite the fact that it's a very emotional thing, and just trying to do the best we can for our student athletes at this point. And we'll see. I hope good things are coming, but it's hard not to be discouraged if you follow it on a daily basis. But heavens, I don't want to talk about that. So
nope.
Who won the year? Couple female names: Kara Huber, women's soccer; Leah Hayworth, women's volleyball; Macy Balmer, really good in field hockey; Judith Breeze, cross country; Kaylin Hickey, Lizzie Tilton for women's basketball; Kendall Ream, Cameron Horst for women's lacrosse. On the male side, Chad Tolson and Nate Muckle in men's soccer; Thatcher Krob, Ebenezer Abebe in cross country; Shoebridge, unbelievable; Kole Horst, Ruben Kemmerer for volleyball; and then Eric Zimmerman in track as well. So a good year. I look at a lot of those names, got a couple on there who are really historical names probably, but other ones that are making a name for themselves. And that's kind of the cool thing with 1920. In years past, we've had Aubrey Folger and Courtney Goyak and C.A. Dunstan. And these are names here where it's like, these are sophomores. These are freshmen. This is a first year sport. That's exciting that we have these things going forward in the future.
This is a really young group of names. There are definitely seniors in there, but not a ton. There are more freshmen, sophomores than probably anything else at that point. So,
absolutely. One thing we would go back and change, I have here: do global pandemics count for the category? Maybe again, not the subject, but
I think that's a hard conversation with God we're going to have one day.
Yeah. Hey, I have a few questions. No particular order, but I have a few questions.
And I think it's going to start with around the year of 2020, but
I know, crazy.
Yep.
Last minute of the men's basketball Niacc final, I'd probably drop a few different things. Don't talk to Coach Mack about that. And obviously,
I wonder how many times he's watched that game.
I don't know. What number would you? It has a comma in it. Whatever the number.
I don't know. I know and talk about how we talked about Caitlin owning her part in the women's basketball program and stuff. Coach Mack owns that last minute. He will he'll. I just remember him talking about it like, guys, I'm sorry. And
it's so difficult. It happens so fast.
Yeah.
It's all, you think you're doing the right thing, and it's so hard. It's just a fast paced game. It slows down, but it goes so fast. I know that makes no sense, but that's really what happens.
5 minutes can seem really long, and many times 5 minutes in an overtime of a men's basketball game or women's basketball game goes so fast though.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the last thing, obviously, you wish you could have played spring sports. And boy, again, I don't want to harp on it because it sounds so sad, but boy, what could have been for men's volleyball. And, you don't get it back and it's okay. And you know what? 17-3, perfect conference record, and eighth in the country. I'm not going to sneeze at that, but whew, I think something good was going to happen. And unfortunately, we'll get to it in a different season, whenever that season is. But hopefully we can play this year and kind of hopefully have some of those things come to fruition for us.
The guy said we're young. That just means Jade's reloading,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm excited to see where this goes. So
Absolutely. So that is 2019-20 in the books. We're going to come back for our last podcast for this series anyway. Next week, we're going to kind of take a look at the future, what we like coming up, what some things we'd like to see, some changes we would make because, we're coaches for all these teams.
yeah, that's right.
And we're going to have Nate Muckle and Cameron Horst come on and kind of talk about where they've been with their programs and where they'd like to see LBC go. They're two pretty influential student athletes that we have here at the college, and they know a lot of the ins and outs of not only the campus, but of our athletic department as well. So looking forward to that conversation. It'll be fun next week. We won't be wrong about anything. So we can prognosticate. We'll be like weather people. It'll be great. So
Yeah.
just because we say 50% chance of rain doesn't mean it's going to rain. It might rain. Don't know if it's going to rain, but I'm looking forward to having that profession next week. So we'll have that for you and have that out before Thanksgiving. But we're wrapped up here of recapping the decade, and we'll get to it next week. But this has been so what I thought and more. I'm so happy we decided to do this. And I've had anyone who's been willing to listen, I've been telling them that we've been having a great time and our guests are great. And we've had a lot of downloads, and we did not do that for that, but that's just been a great kind of side dish, as it were, as we head into the Thanksgiving season here.
Yeah.
I've just been so happy and proud to be associated with LBC when we've talked to our guests, and tonight's guests included. We're not telling them to say any of these things. We do not send them a script. I don't even send them the questions. So I hate doing that. I think we did that one time, and the answers sound canned, so I hate it. So I just shoot them questions, and they've answered what their gut has told them, and they've been terrific answers. And I've been so happy with our former coaches, our student athletes, past and present, and this has been great.
Yeah. It's been so much fun. Just reconnecting with different people from different time periods of 10 years. You go back to look at what Lancaster Bible College athletics was in 2010 and to what it is today in 2020. It's still Lancaster Bible College, but there's been significant changes and advances, and there's been hiccups along the way. But those student athletes and those former coaches, boy, if you didn't catch some of their passion for their relationship with God, their relationship with their sport, their teams, their friends, it's been really cool just to hear them speak from their hearts, and they mean it. So
Absolutely. And you talk about changes in the decade. We have to get off this podcast because you and I are going to go live stream a game under the lights at the Donald H. Funk Field. So that's something we probably wouldn't have said when we were reviewing the 2010.
That's right.
So, that's awesome.
No, not at all. No, we would have. Where's the generator? And can we bring in like portable lights?
Does anyone have gas for the generator? No, we don't. Go down to Fizz Plant. I can't. It's locked. That was the conversation in 2010.
Yeah. And is the scoreboard going to work?
Will the scoreboard work? And who's playing what? Do we have enough guys for an inter-squad scrimmage? Things like that.
Oh, man.
So this is way better. And despite the fact that my extremities are going to be frozen in 2 hours, I'm looking forward to going outside.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Thanks for this, Bob. Appreciate it. And we'll see everyone next week. And go Chargers, go.